The Empire's iron rule. The Zoroth Empire did not fear unknowns. For 6,000 years, it had devoured planets, shattered civilizations, and extinguished resistance before it could breathe. It was a force of inevitability, a machine of war spanning half the galaxy. When whispers came of a signal from a forgotten star system near the galactic fringe, the Empire sent a fleet, not diplomats. Commodore Vrytok stood at the command dais of the dreadnought Iridax, 7 crimson eyes scanning the tactical holosphere as the fleet emerged from warp space in synchronous formation. 37 capital ships, more than enough to sterilize an unshielded world. "System Soul," the navigator rasped, his voice telepathically echoing into the minds of the bridge crew. 1 habitable planet. Class, 5 civilization markers. No signs of stellar infrastructure. Scans suggest analog-level technology. Vrytok narrowed his gaze. Primitive. Then why had every scout probe sent ahead gone silent? "Deploy full-spectrum scans," he ordered. "I want surface topography, EM signatures, life signs. And someone tell me why this system feels hollow." The crew obeyed without question. Within moments, sensor feeds began to populate the air. Planetary orbits, gravitational anomalies, atmospheric readings. Then, everything stopped. The holosphere flickered. The tactical overlays vanished. And silence fell like a shroud. A single object appeared at the edge of the system, just past the third planet's orbit, unregistered, unmarked, motionless. No IFF. No energy output. Just there. "Where did that ship come from?" hissed Vrytok. "It wasn't there 10 seconds ago," replied his sensor officer. "No warp signature. No entry trace." He turned to the psychic link node, a pale, veined orb at the center of the command platform. "Report to High Command. We have encountered unknown architecture. Initiate psychic scan." The moment the mind link activated, the orb screamed. Not figuratively. The node screamed, a shrill, tearing psychic feedback that burst into every mind on the bridge. The link severed in an instant. Crew members clutched their skulls, blood seeping from their secondary eyes. Some collapsed. 2 died. Vrytok steadied himself against the command rail. What was that? The sensor officer trembled. Unknown vessel emitted a pulse. Not electromagnetic. Something else. It shut down our entire signet. We are cut off. The unknown ship remained still. Then, as silently as it had arrived, it vanished. Not jumped. Not warped. Vanished. What kind of tech? A proximity alarm shrieked. "One of our cruisers, Vascal, it's gone." "Gone?" Vrytok snarled. "Did it warp?" "No. It's just, there's no mass signature. No wreckage. No explosion." The holosphere refreshed. Where the Vascal had been, empty space. Not even vapor. Panic rippled through the fleet's command chain. Vrytok barked orders to reorient shields, to retreat to minimum safe distance, to target the coordinates where the object had been. The bridge was chaos. Then came the sound he feared most, silence on the command channel. A void where the Empire's voice should have been. The psychic net, the unbreakable lattice that unified Zoroth Command, had fractured. He stood in the flickering light of failing holograms, sweat glistening on his chitinous armor. "Begin fallback maneuvers. Maintain formation. We are." Another pulse. No explosion this time, just the warping of space, like the entire system exhaled. 2 more cruisers disappeared. The dreadnought Kralton began to twist in on itself, its hull folding in unnatural angles before vanishing completely. No weapons. No warnings. Just deletion. Vrytok stared at the cold void beyond his viewport. This wasn't war. This was something else. He reached out once more to the link node. It sparked, dead. They were blind, deaf, and alone. And somewhere, just beyond their range, something was watching. The Ghost Fleet. Earth had gone silent for 300 years. After First Contact turned into First Massacre, humanity vanished behind layers of silence, deception, and raw desperation. The galaxy believed they had perished, another primitive species erased by the Zoroth Empire. That assumption had been encouraged. High above the hidden world, Buried inside a phase-cloaked orbital fortress, Captain Lin Reyes stood at the edge of the tactical chamber aboard the Silent Light. A sleek spearhead of matte black alloy, the Silent Light was the most advanced human warship ever constructed, and still only a fraction of what humanity now possessed. "Telemetry confirmed," said her XO, Lieutenant Dara Iqbal. "The Nullblade completed its trial run. 3 Zoroth ships neutralized. They're blind, scattered, and they think it's a ghost." Lin didn't smile. She simply nodded. "Good. Proceed with Phase 2. Let them believe it." Behind her, the holosphere projected the Sol system in icy blue, its outer layers veiled in fractal distortions. Earth appeared only as a void in space, a blank zone of nothingness. That's all it would show on Zoroth scans. A perfect cloak, woven from gravitational lensing, quantum phase rotation, and exotic particles humanity barely understood. They didn't need to fully comprehend it. They just had to make it work. The cost had been enormous. Generations of hiding, endless sacrifices, entire colonies erased to maintain the illusion of extinction. But now it was their turn. "Any reaction from the enemy fleet?" Lin asked. "Widespread panic," Iqbal replied. "They've cut psychic communications. Their formations are drifting. They're afraid." Lin turned to a secondary feed, displaying old footage from the first contact incident. Charred cities, shattered orbital defenses, entire continents burned to ash. A dozen scout ships from the Zoroth Empire had done it in under 20 hours. That day had taught humanity a brutal truth. They weren't alone, and they were prey. But instead of fighting and losing, they went dark. Silent. And while the Empire continued its conquests, confident and unchallenged, Earth became something else entirely, a graveyard of noise and a forge of vengeance. She swiped the footage away. "I want the Nullblade repositioned. Phase in behind the Zoroth dreadnought and mark it with a tachyon signature. No engagement unless fired upon." A voice crackled over the encrypted command channel. "This is Nullblade. Confirmed. Spooling jump drive. Standing by." Lin glanced at Iqbal. "Any sign they suspect?" Iqbal smirked. "They think it's an ancient weapon or a spatial anomaly. They have no idea it was us." "Good." The Nullblade was humanity's answer to centuries of humiliation, a vessel that didn't exist in normal space, built on half-understood alien tech and human desperation. It moved in ways no conventional ship could track. It didn't fire missiles. It simply appeared and unmade its target. Lin walked over to the command node and tapped her ID chip into the secure core. "Authorization. Reyes. Initiate Fleet Ghost Protocol." A moment later, the orbital fortress shimmered and pulled apart. It wasn't just one ship. It was a fleet. Dozens of ships, unmanned, AI-driven, wrapped in adaptive light armor and armed with weapons outlawed in every known civilization. Not that laws mattered now. From deep under the oceans, from the moons of Jupiter, from inside asteroids hollowed out in secret, the Ghost Fleet emerged. Silent. Swift. Unforgiving. Lin stared at the projection of the Zoroth fleet, clustered and confused on the system's edge. "Do you know what makes us dangerous?" she murmured. "They've never met an enemy that doesn't want to be seen." She turned to Iqbal. "Let them come closer. Just close enough to believe they're still in control." Iqbal nodded. And then we show them what extinction feels like." The shattering. The Zoroth Empire had never encountered chaos they couldn't control. Until now. Commodore Vrytok watched helplessly from the command bridge of the Iridax as 2 more ships, Dreenak and Soltor, vanished. No fire. No wreckage. Just sudden erasure. Gone from sensors, gone from space, gone from memory as if they had never existed. His psychic officers were unresponsive, most locked in seizures or catatonia. The Empire's vaunted neural command net, its greatest strategic advantage, was dead, burned out by whatever foul energy that ghost ship had unleashed. "Bring us about," Vrytok shouted, mandibles clicking in panic. "Retreat formation Delta 6. All ships, regroup on the Iridax. Prepare warp egress." No one responded. The command channels were flooded with static and panicked cries. Some ships had begun to fire blindly into empty space. Others had turned their guns on themselves, overridden by corrupted AI protocols. One cruiser spun slowly, leaking plasma, its hull writing strange, flickering characters in its exhaust trail, characters that didn't belong to any known language. Then the null blade reappeared. This time, it didn't hide. It phased into reality directly behind the Zoroth dreadnought Threxel, and for a brief instant, its form was visible, sleek and alien, like an obsidian spear carved from solid night. No lights. No weapons ports. Just a void in the shape of a ship. And then Threxel began to twist. Not explode, twist. The massive dreadnought folded in upon itself, hull plating bending in defiance of material science, like space itself had changed its rules. Within 3 seconds, the ship had collapsed into a pinpoint of darkness and disappeared. Vrytok screamed. He had seen 1,000 battles. He had led purges across 3 spiral arms. But this was annihilation without context. It was then the humans revealed themselves. The system's outer edge shimmered. Cloaks dropped. Fields dissipated. Ships appeared, dozens of them, maybe more, each matte black, cold, and silent. They moved in coordinated silence, with no visible propulsion, no signal emissions. Their names scrolled across Zoroth sensors in dead human languages: Vengeance, Nameless, Elegy, Ashfall. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. The first wave struck without warning. Directed energy beams, invisible to the eye but devastating in effect, sliced through hulls like air. Zoroth warcruisers detonated in synchronized flashes. Adaptive nanite cloud swarmed ships, disabling weapons, consuming metal, hijacking internal systems. A single Zoroth destroyer launched a full barrage of fusion torpedoes, the kind that could glass a continent. The torpedoes turned mid-flight. They looped. They came back. And they struck the ship that launched them. No logic, one of the remaining psychic officers gasped through a blood-soaked mouth. Their minds, they're not human anymore. On board the Silent Light, Lynn Reyes stood still as the carnage unfolded. "Status?" she asked. "All major enemy warships have lost fleet cohesion," Iqbal reported calmly. 73% have either been neutralized or are engaging in friendly fire. No sign of effective countermeasures. They're broken. Any losses? None. Lynn nodded slowly. Execute the second wave. No survivors. The Ghost Fleet surged forward, deploying hunter drones, autonomous kill programs that phased through armor, attached to hulls, and detonated at the molecular level. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The Zoroth Empire had come expecting to conquer a remnant. Instead, they found a species that had vanished for 3 centuries, and returned as something sharper, colder, and completely unrecognizable. Vrytok's final broadcast, intercepted on all channels, was filled with static and terror. Unknown technology, not war, not natural. They see everything. They hear our thoughts. Gods help us. They were never extinct. They were waiting. Then silence. His ship folded, mid-transmission, collapsing into a perfect, noiseless singularity. In less than an hour, the entire Zoroth fleet was gone. Every ship. Every crew. Every trace. All that remained in orbit over Sol was the slow, precise movements of the Ghost Fleet, repositioning, resetting, watching. Waiting for the next wave. Debrief and the message sent. The battlefield was quiet. No wreckage. No radiation. No bodies. Just the faint distortion in space where 37 Zoroth ships had once hovered, their absence more deafening than their presence. On the bridge of the Silent Light, Captain Lynn Reyes folded her arms behind her back and watched the tactical display slowly rotate. Empty markers faded out one by one, the last traces of the enemy fleet dissolving into null data. All contacts confirmed neutralized, Lieutenant Iqbal reported. We logged 100% mission success. Not a single enemy vessel escaped scan range. Lynn raised an eyebrow. That's not quite true. The screen shifted. A single dot pulsed on the outer edge of the Sol system, a Zoroth courier-class ship, smaller and faster than its siblings. Somehow it had survived. Somehow it had run. And they had let it go. I ordered it spared, Lynn said, turning toward the comm station. Open a galaxy band channel. Encrypted, but traceable. Iqbal blinked. You're sending the message? No, Lin's voice was flat. We already did that. She stepped forward, triggering the broadcast sequence. The system lit up, reaching into space with a pulse of raw signal and directed intent. The message was simple. Just a voice. Human. Cold. Controlled. To the Zoroth Empire. We remember. We survived. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Soul is closed. Try again, and we won't just erase your fleet. We'll erase your name from the stars. The signal went out. Across hyperspace relays, black market relays, listening outposts, and Empire spy nodes. It was impossible to stop. It had already spread. Iqbal exhaled. They're going to lose their minds. Lin nodded. They need to. Silence returned to the bridge as the ghost fleet began to withdraw, slipping back into cloak fields and spatial folds. Ships that didn't exist, returning to places that couldn't be found. Down on Earth, the surface remained dark, cities still buried beneath shielding, lights off, quiet as the grave. Humanity had grown used to shadows. It had made a home in the silence. But that home was changing. In the command vault beneath Antarctica, Directive Counselor Aisha Mar stood before a panel of deep-learned prediction cores. Around her, ghostly holograms floated, simulations of retaliation, invasions, diplomatic entreaties. They all ended the same way. The Zoroth will respond, said one of the AI tacticians. They cannot tolerate humiliation. They'll come back with more, Mar agreed. More fleets. Heavier weapons. Psychic bombardment protocols. Possibly civilian targeting. It will escalate. Good, said Lin, her voice carried in via secure uplink. Mar glanced up. You expected this. I planned for it. What do we do now? There was a long pause. Then Lin spoke with quiet certainty. We let them bleed. Piece by piece. System by system. Every time they reach, we break their hand. Eventually, they'll realize they're playing a game with no rules, against an enemy that doesn't want to win, just to unmake. Mar considered that. And if they don't back down? Lin's reply was immediate. Then we bring the Leviathan online. In low orbit above Neptune, a shape stirred. Buried in the shadow of the gas giant, cloaked beneath layers of quantum ice and polarized distortion, the Leviathan protocol had waited in silence for over a century. It was not a ship. Not exactly. More a weaponized planet, built around an ancient alien core discovered deep in the Kuiper Belt, fused with human engineering and powered by singularity compression. It had no crew. No bridge. Just a purpose. To end empires. Lin watched from the silent light as the Leviathan began to warm, its deep core tremors spreading into the surrounding space like the breath of a sleeping god. She turned to Iqbal one last time. Begin hibernation sequence for the Ghost Fleet. Keep the system dark. They'll come again. Iqbal nodded. What if they send emissaries? Lin's eyes hardened. Then we silence them. She looked out at the stars, quiet, cold, and endless. We tried peace once. They burned it. Now we give them the only thing they left us. As the last ships vanished and the system fell back into artificial obscurity, the stars over Sol twinkled like they always had, ancient, indifferent, watching. But beneath them, humanity was no longer sleeping. They were sharpening the knife. And waiting for the next target.